And for more on FinTech, let's speak now to Robin Loh, Chief Digital Officer in Asia Pacific of Allianz. Robin, we just heard about blockchain, but aside from that, what other trends are there in FinTech?
Sure, Jerry, thanks for having me here. I think, before I answer that question, we have to understand what is the driving force behind FinTech trends, right? And I think here in Asia, what's driving it is financial inclusion, or inclusion as the kids call it nowadays. Because outside of Singapore, you're seeing a lot of countries with underbanked, underprotected population of upwards of 80%. And up until now, it's very expensive to reach out to these customers and serve them appropriately. So with the rise of mobile technology and open financial services capability, we're seeing more and more outreach to these customers. Right. So in terms of the trends that are driving this, we're seeing open APIs, which allow banks and insurance companies to actually talk to each other better and also talk to third-party services to reach out to these customers. And then we're looking at blockchain, which allows for more transparency and auditability in the entire financial trail. You've seen peer-to-peer lending. We see a lot of the rise of third-party payments and the likes. But I think ultimately all these trends converge upon where and how do we serve the customers better and solve the pain points.
Okay, so how can traditional banks and technology firms work together for better synergy so that it benefits the consumer in the end?
Right. I think it all starts with the customer journey, right? Very often, the necessity is the mother of invention. And I think in terms of financial services, I talked a lot about financial inclusion. And I think from a traditional player perspective, whether it's insurance or bank, we have to understand how can we actually serve them better, more securely and faster, right, and cheaper. So one way is to stay open. And that means getting out there, working with third-party digital platforms. We see things, for example, like Uber and Airbnb, on the rise. There are a lot of customers there that need financial services, right? How do we actually serve them on these platforms and connected, right? How do we actually connect better with the regulators, with the customers, and with each other using open standards?
Okay, so the FinTech Festival is on now. Yes. Hong Kong had theirs last week, and it's making moves to challenge Singapore in this area. What does Singapore need to do to, stave off the competition?
So I think, the Singapore government, in particular, the MAS, has actually been doing a lot, right? Besides actually putting money where their mouth is, I think more than $200 million has been spent in the FinTech area. They've also been doing practical, pragmatic things. Besides putting out a sandbox, for example, MAS opening up more and more availability of data. They have also published APIs where banks and startups and insurance companies can actually leverage to drive better value proposition for customers. Now, besides this, on the regulatory front, we're doing a lot. I think the industry in Singapore actually has to think beyond the borders as well, right? I think we sit in a region where there's a lot of underserved customers. So how do we actually bring our innovation, and our services in a more secure and fast way across the entire region?
Okay, very quickly, Robin, as well. In the first 3 quarters of this year, already 10 billion has been pumped into Chinese FinTech firms. How much more upside do you see?
Well, as they say, a rising tide floats all boats. And as we start seeing more and more headwind in the economy, I think there's still the upside. But one thing to note is that, as the money becomes tougher to raise, many startups and in fact some established players will be challenged to show how they can actually monetize some of their innovation and also to show viability and profitability down the line.
Robin, thank you very much for those insights. I've been speaking with Robin Loh from Allianz.